Well, our featured modeler tonight is you, the viewer. Chris Course is the moderator for the My Bills. And Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. I understand you have a lot of people that are interested in showing us their modeling, and I think that's wonderful. So Chris, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, we've got a lot going on tonight. Like I said, like I emailed Jim, we've got quite a few slides, quite a few presenters. Hopefully some of these slides will go fairly quickly. Let me get my screen share going and we will get started here. All right. Everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. All right, first up, we've got kind of going back a few to the first timer bar from downtown Ducko that was originally done by Clark Kooning. And for that, we have Ralph Parker. Ralph, are you up? All right, well, anyway, Ralph sent me a few photos of the build that he did. So here's one, and then here are the rest of them. Looks like he did a pretty decent job. Managed to get the paintings on the wall pretty easily. So that looks like it came out pretty well. And next up, we have the Blair Line General Store, which was the build along was by Bob Farquhar. This actually has quite a few. I did get this email from Don Phillips that said he wanted to thank Bob for his assistance and showing us how to do that. And he also mentions that Cochran's General Store was actually named after his great-grandfather, who emigrated to Canada in the 1890s from Glasgow, Scotland, and worked as a machinist at National Steel Car in Hamilton, Ontario until the early 1900s. And so he felt it appropriate to make the railroad connection with this build. So without further ado, we'll go into those photos. Got that one. Looks like he did a pretty decent job on getting all the decals or the signs up. Even managed to looks like he managed to get an interior in there and do some lighting. So that looks like it came out great. Looks like he had a good job with the roof. Then next up, we've got the General Store build by Greg Cassidy. Greg, are you up?
Yeah, I'm on here. So if you want to just step through them.
Sure. Yep, we've got the first one, which is a shot on your layout there.
What I did here, I started out by staining the back shed walls using Hunter's medium brown, and then I did some dry brushing of a chalk paint over the walls after putting on the stain. And then for doing the doors and windows, I used a watercolor pencil, which is not really a colored pencil. It's something you dip in water and then can apply it kind of like a stiff, waxy ink. Next. And this is what it came out like. I wanted mine to be kind of closed and a little bit abandoned, although it had seen better days. I had the main sign on the roof falling down, and the windows all boarded up and the doors boarded up. And I just kind of wanted that derelict look. I also did not go with the peel and stick roofing. I just used some standing seam roofing that I had and put that on. But otherwise, I pretty much used everything that came with the kit the way it came. It was a fun kit to build, and I appreciate Bob taking us along on this jury while he was showing us what to do.
This is my favorite one of them all. Look at the detail here. That's why this one is full on. I didn't shrink this one down at all. I just put it right straight up. Look at the detail on this. Greg did a fantastic job with it.
Thank you, Chris.
And there's some more.
Yeah, and then I finally ended up, I took a couple pictures outside and then finally put it on my layout where, because of the terrain, I had to post some of it up with some brick posts. And I realized that probably the reason it went out of business was he neglected to put any steps on that, and somebody fell off and sued his ass, and he was no more.
There you have it. All right. One last shot. And then now we're on to Phil Edholm. Phil, did you want to talk about your build?
Yeah, really quickly. So I decided that I wanted to build this. I looked at the kit and decided I wasn't going to be able to use it on a module or anything I was building. So I decided to build it for the O-Scale Club, which is kind of late transition, early diesel era, say, late 50s, early 60s kind of time frame. And what I kind of decided to do is I wanted to bring the building forward into that time frame and realize that kind of in the environment, it's close to a city where it's going to be placed, probably wouldn't be a general store any longer. So I thought about what to build and decided an Army Navy surplus store was an interesting store. So if you notice kind of on the right there, you've got the decal that was the old Coke sign on the wall that's been painted over. It is now a little faded, and just much more basic signs. So you can just go ahead and jump through the pictures. Nothing really fancy here. The interior is basically just a combination of a photo interior, a little 3D printed display case with some acrylic and a couple of figures inside. This thing's really is going to be placed where the viewing distance is really 4 feet, about right at 4 feet. So at 4 feet, when you look at this back from 4 feet, it gives you a really good kind of view. So go ahead and jump through them. That's quick as it needs to be. But I put this on a module just to kind of show what it looked like. So kind of a side view. So the idea is a more modern building where the signage has become much more business specific, and it's become a survivor.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed the Coke sign. That's a heck of a job there. I really like how that came out.
Yeah, that was my. So what I was trying to do is I kind of thought about this, since everybody's going to build a general store. What would the general store look like 40 years later if it didn't become decrepit, if it was still a business? So, and the sign, like if you notice on the sign, you got to look at it, but they're all rusted. So they're kind of like they were built as metal signs as they were back then, that were painted and then put up and eventually would start to rust. So, and by the way, the one thing that's interesting is there are 3 LEDs under the roof. They're those 8030s, and they're just glued, literally just with some canopy glue on the roof before I installed it. The signs are all printed on photo stock on an 8.5 by 11 photo sheet. That also the interior was printed on because the lighting's from above, it doesn't glare. But you notice the hunting sign, you can kind of see on the right picture. It actually is see-through. And I think that's a really interesting thought process for anyone who wants to build a backlit sign. If you buy photo paper and do white letters with a solid color around them, cut it out and backlight it, you're gonna have a really nice backlit sign. So kind of an interesting derivative of doing this, the concept of backlit signs. But that said, I decided to do it really quickly because I had to go focus on another model, and so wanted to do something quick.
Yeah. All right. And then Bill Cohen. Bill, are you up? Or Dan, rather. Dan Cohen, are you up?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, so for me, this is a first time build. I've never built a wood kit before, or Craftsman or anything like that. So I decided to take the dive on this one. And so as we go through it, what I'm very critical of myself, which is good and bad. So all I see are mistakes, being new. It's also, I haven't finished it. I have some signs that you'll see later, and you'll see the front supports aren't finished either, because I had to modify them because the size of the pole there. If you want to go ahead.
All right.
And take a look at some of the issues I had. Roofing was an issue. I just was, in handling it, the back of the roof came up and I just couldn't keep it down. So I'll probably have to glue that later. I did try to put in some action, and my action was I just used a little bit of Q-tip cotton on the on the chimney there, and you can actually see it in different directions because I was photographing on my paint booth and the fan was pulling it towards it. So it created a little bit of action there.
Yeah, it came out
Some
really neat.
Thanks. Some of the other differences in detail I did, I wanted to do, I just didn't want a fully white wall. So I came up with the idea of just putting the trim on the bottom. So there's blue trim all the way around on this one. I would love any hints from anybody on how to cut round signs, because I struggled a lot, and that's why there's only the 2 Coke signs that are round on there. But I was learning a lot through this whole process, taking everybody's hints on this. I spend more on details, actually. I have very few details on here, but it turns out it's spent probably twice as much on like woodland scenics details over the kit itself. So I'll have to rethink that one. All the weathering is just powders I got at I either got them at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or just store brand. To do the roof and the sides, watching videos on YouTube to get where to put weathering and how to do it, and have the dirt weathering come up from the ground. I also tried using a wire brush to kind of rough up the sides, but I was really nervous about this. So there's only a little bit of that on, you can see on the back here. I used the back behind the shed, I used as a test bed for it. The other thing I tried to do was with a razor, trying to pull up the wood boards. And so I tried that on the back of the building itself and covered it up. It's that takes a little bit of practice, and I'm not there yet on it. And then if you want to move along here, so here's the front. So what I did, I had the thing that tortured me the most is those posts, even though they were cut to the standard on the instructions, didn't match up with the roof there of the porch. So I could have easily just taken some brass wire I had and attached it to the top, but I wanted to challenge myself. So I found some styrene that I'm using to build something else, and it didn't quite exactly fit the wood. So I used some just what do you call that stuff? It's not like it's that stringy foliage, and I just stuffed it in there and had it come out from that, almost like a potter, but it helped stabilize the wood in there. And then I just painted the styrene with a base white and the blue that I used with the rest of it. And so I need to finish that up. I did do the other 3 and they're drying right now, but it did come out kind of decent. I was shocked by it a little bit. But that's my piece of it. I don't know if you have oh, you do. Okay. So for the signs that I need to finish up, I let my wife go ahead and name the store, and it's called Wolf's because it's a part of her family name. And so again, I was following the techniques. I found the Sharpies, the really thin Sharpies, to do the ends of it so it's not white on the paper. The other thing that I did is there was so much scrap wood from the kit that it made it easy to put backings on them, and so I stained some of the backing. The other signs I did, I wanted to personalize it to like everybody else, even though I said I was going to do this just the way it says in the instructions. I decided to step out on my own a little and just give it a try. So I made a sign that says Wolf's famous pheasant pot pie. I don't know if that gives a clue to what state this is in, but it's in my wife's home state, and I love to make fun of it. So I made that sign. And this one I haven't printed yet, but this Giordano's is a Chicago-based deep dish pizza place. And so I made them the distributor of their frozen pizzas. So I'll be working to try and finalize that. I have a YouTube series on this, and so I have one more video to do, and hopefully to wrap this up, finishing up the support and the porch supports and details, and then the signs, and I think that should wrap it up. And if you're looking for me, my name is Dan Cohen, so you can search for that, and then you should see, of all the channels that are out there with that name, you should see one with the background that you see on my background here for the Zoom meeting. But you can check out the whole series. There's about, you know, eight updates, 7 updates, I think. But that was my build, and this is the first one. And finally, I just want to thank Bob for giving all the tips and going through each section. That was super helpful. And that tip about the porch supports was prepared me well for this one, because it certainly didn't work out the way the instructions said. And then again, Jim and this whole show for giving me the opportunity, a giant discount on the kit, which has always been my stopping point for Craftsman kits, is price. So want to thank you very much for getting me involved in this and probably ruining my checkbook for life. So thank you.
All right, so I'll move on, and we'll do mine next. This one, I decided to call it Top Jimmy's Nightclub because I was driving home from work one day trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this kit. Because as soon as I, you know, when I get a kit and it's like, it comes as a general store, the last thing I'm going to do is make it a general store. So I tried to figure out what I was going to do, and I had this song stuck in my head, and it's a song that was written by a band called Van Halen, and it's about a guy by the name of James Konchek, who's known as Top Jimmy, late 70s, early 80s. On the left, you'll see Tilly, which is from the Wonder Bar in Asbury Park, New Jersey. So what I tried to do was try to mix things in a little bit. So I decided to do some research. First, you've got, you know, the Wonder Bar and the Stone Pony, which is where people like Bruce Springsteen and Southside Johnny and those people got their start. The Whiskey A Go-Go, which is where tons and tons of bands got their start. And then I found out Top Jimmy was a real dude. He was really weird. So I'm not going to go into his antics, but the song is about Top Jimmy. And so I decided to look at it and go, all right, well, let's advance 20 years. Where would Top Jimmy be? And near as I could figure, he would own a nightclub. So the nightclub is Top Jimmy's. Features you know, Tilly up in the upper left corner. There is probably a metal sign. If you notice, a little tribute to a pair of rescuemen there in the upper right corner with the 2 green feet underneath the overhang. And of course, you got the marquee. This kit, I decided to do some experimentation on. It's certainly not one of my better kits, or not one of my better builds. But you know, it's done. One of the lines in the song is that they say he sang so good that the roof fell in and he didn't even stop the show. It's like, oh, I've got to take that into the building. So I cut a big hole in the roof and put in some broken roof supports, and the sides of the building are all done up in concert posters, and the Clapton is God. I think that's actually on one of his albums. If you'll notice, there's some areas that didn't quite get the stain. That's because that's where the glue ended up. Actually, it's not a stain. It's I washed it with dirty water. So pretty much for me, this is an exercise in doing some different things, like those concert posters, getting them on there and seeing what I could do. You don't want to mess with them too much, because if you notice with like the ZZ Top and looks like the one that's over on the end there, they get handled too much. And so when you handle them too much, they start to lose the ink. So as you can see, the other side also got the same amount of concert posters, etc., on there. And you see some of them made the front. And of course, they must be 21 to enter on both sides, like you would typically see on a nightclub. And so that's how Top Jimmy's came out. Like I said, it was definitely an experiment. There's some things that I did with this kit that I haven't done with any other kit, and I'm kind of glad that I hopefully I made all my mistakes on this one, and they don't carry on to the next kit. All right, next up, we're going to start with the Bar Mills 1 kit build-alongs, which were done by Gaylord Gill and Randy Boscher. Gaylord or Randy, did you guys want to talk about it before we move on? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and Mike Werman, are you up?
Hi there.
There you are.
There I am. Okay. This is the inside walls. Showed you putting in the bracing necessary to keep these walls straight. Next slide.
Yep.
Okay. And then the opposite side. This is a freight house. I found it on the internet. It didn't have a history or anything. And I kind of thought it looked like a good 30 by 50 foot building. So I just took it from there. The size of the doors, the bay doors, and everything. I also built the deck. It's a 30 by 16 foot loading dock. And is there more pictures?
Yes. Yep.
No?
Last
Here
two.
we go. Okay. This is a Model Tech crane, and I made it so that it does swivel, and it's not permanently in that one position. But the pictures I got, this is what you saw with the car pulling up to the freight doors, and that's pretty much it.
All right.
The base is 3/4 plywood with that laser printed sheetrock rail scale cells.
Oh, cool.
And let's see, that's about it.
Yeah, I like that yellow color. That's really nice.
You might mention this is in S scale.
This is in a scale, yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Any more questions for Mike? All right, we will move on to Jeremy Wyant.
Yeah, so I'm modeling in O scale, and I did an earlier kind of presentation on what's inspiring.
Hey, Jeremy, I accidentally muted you because the Zoom decided to move you when I was trying to turn somebody else off.
Okay. So I'm doing O scale. I did a presentation earlier about some of the things that are inspiring my layout, which is focused on Portland, Maine, potentially Grand Trunk Railroad, Boston and Maine Railroad, things like that. But there's piers here. And I've got one set of tracks that go out to a piers. But in this particular case, this is my third build along, and it's the real opportunity to use the #1 kit to do what you want to do, something different. So I got this picture from my local museum. I wasn't really sure where it was, what the date was or anything, or even what some of these things are, like these shafts here over on the left, whether, the conclusion that seems to be closest as this was to get ice down to the boats. And you can see a couple of these shafts here. And so what I'm going to do is use the one kit to model, kind of a snippet of this, because it's O scale, so you're never going to get anything close to this. The other thing that's important is the date here. I've talked to at least 3 historians about this, trying to come up with this plan. And we don't really know the date, nor do we know specifically which pier this is. But there's one historian that thought it was called the Custom House Wharf. But it's probably the wrong time frame for my railroad. I'm doing transition like 1952, 54. And this picture is probably around 1900, but not really sure. So I want to go to the next slide.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah, it's a little bit slow here. So
You want this slide or the next one?
yeah, this is a 1914 map of the Portland waterfront, or a snippet of it. And that arrow was put in there by one of the librarians of the Portland room at the Portland Library, where they have all the historical stuff about Portland. And he thinks that this is the right place. But it's not clear to me that it's a good fit. But it's close enough, and you can kind of get a sense of the tracks going right down Commercial Street, down the main drag here, which is part of what I'm trying to model. And you can also see the number of wharves, and I'm doing a little bit of that. So you can go to the next one. So this is a couple of close-ups of that earlier photograph, because I'm trying to understand what these shafts are. It seems like there may be an elevator in the middle of the building to move the ice up from the back, maybe. And and then there's these things that go down to the water from the holes in the towers. So that's kind of what I'm trying to understand more about. And I have yet to get any additional detailed pictures or interiors, or even knowing what the names of these businesses are. So you can go to the next one. So my plan was, pretty much a sketch. What I did is I took that picture and I said, okay, I'm going to try to do 3 of these buildings or pieces of those buildings. And then I mapped it to the holes that are in the Bar Mills kit. I have to update the plan, because one of the things I realized after starting to build this is my idea that this very first building on the left is going to be 3 stories tall. And it just didn't seem to be the right fit for where I'm going to position this on my layout. So I made it 2 stories. So it doesn't really fit the picture, but hey, it's close enough, and I can always transform it to something else if I decide I don't like it. Next slide. Okay, so this is one of the things that I learned the most about putting together this kit was the sheer, since this was my 3rd build along, I've accumulated a lot of glue and parts and materials and tools, and had trouble organizing all that material. So a neighbor was tossing a TV cabinet, and I added these shelves and on roller bearing drawers here. And I'm probably going to add 2 more down below. This thing is 49 inches tall, and I use this as a stand-up desk. So all of my cutting is done up at that level, or it usually is. So this worked out pretty well. Of course, it delayed me probably for a week or 2 messing around with this, just getting this all working, and because I had material everywhere. That was another one of the big lessons learned here. But go to the next slide. And there's another picture of all the parts here. Right now, the 3 buildings, and I've only partly completed 1. I have 2 more buildings to go. So there's 10 walls that I have to build. There's a combination of 42 doors and windows across all 3 buildings. So I had ordered 2 number 1 kits. But man, it takes a lot of real estate to be able to keep track of all those parts. When you're painting them and assembling them and know what goes where. So that was a big learning curve as well. You can see it with all this blue tape, sticky tape. I'm getting ready to paint all this stuff. You can go to the next slide. So that's this is the building on the left in the picture with the elevator or the shaft for delivering the ice. So here's the back view with the bracing. The one on the upper left is the wall that'll meet with the second building that's adjacent to it that hasn't been built yet. So there's no windows or anything on that. Go to the next slide. I also didn't attach the doors in this building in the front because I'm thinking about doing an interior. So you can see here that this is all I primed everything with gray primer and then did dry brush white paint on it. I'm clearly going to do some more weathering and stuff, and I've started to do the window trim. In this building, all the windows and doors are in, but I've only trimmed the one wall here, and I've been struggling with the trim to some degree, trying to figure out the best way to best look and feel for that trim. So more work to go there, but I'm making some headway and learning a lot as I go, which is half the battle here. Next slide. So I think the next slide, it shows I mocked up. So there's the back of the building on my layout. You can see the tracks are kind of behind this, and this is the edge of the wharf. So this is the back of the building. I mean, go to the next slide. It's kind of like doing a dry fit because this is the first time this morning was the first time I've kind of placed it on the layout to see what it's going to look like. And I'm kind of happy with it. One thing that's really interesting, if you 3 slides back when you saw the painted walls, it looked gray. Well, it is gray, but under this LED light, 5,000 lumens, whatever it is, it looks blue. So that's anyway, that's just a nit. I've got a lot of work here. So this is kind of where I am right now with this first building. Clearly, I've got roofs to do. I've got 2 more buildings. I've got some issues here on how I'm going to transition, how I'm going to put flooring on this wharf and then transition up to a cobblestone paved street with the tracks in that street. So that's going to be a challenge for me, I think. And maybe it's one of those questions that I ought to submit and we could talk about it on the next show or something. I'm going to completely rebuild, not completely, but I'm going to rebuild where this water is and where this fishing boat is, so you can see underneath the wharf. After watching Maureen do her work, I've got to just do all that distressing with the saw for 70 feet of dowel. That'll be all the pilings and stuff along here. But I also want to be able to see under, and you'll see that in the last picture shows what the real thing looks like today, kind of what I'm looking for. And that's that kit for that fishing boat is just the major resin parts. I wanted to put it there to kind of see what it would look like, but that's a French River kit. So that's something that's on my to-do list to build, and obviously it'd be great to have it there to be able to show off this building once it's done. Go to the next slide. So these are contemporary pictures taken on the wharf where I live on an island. I live on Peaks Island. So when I bring the ferry in, this is the view of that I see coming in, and you can see underneath, at low tide, you can see all these cob job things for holding up stuff. And I want to be able to have somebody that visits my layout be able to look under there and see these things. And you'll see some rock walls back there, sea walls, and that kind of thing. I think that'd look really cool, but it's going to take me a while. And there's some significant challenges in terms of weathering these things and things like that, all these different levels depending on tides and stuff like that. So been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate Randy and Gaylord doing this build. Like I said, I've learned a lot about the whole process, and have a long ways to go, and well, we'll see where it goes. And maybe I'll come back on on a future show and show you what it's like completed. So anyway, that's it. If there's any questions.
All right. And before you head out, Jeremy, I just wanted to make one quick announcement, and that's that for the next few months, I will be out, and Jeremy has stepped up to do the my builds. So you can send your photos, et cetera, to him, and I'll get him up to speed here shortly on how to do that. But I will be out until about the approximately the September my build. And so anyway, I think I'm leaving. I know I'm leaving it in pretty good hands with Jeremy to take over the my builds during that time. So thank you in advance, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
Hey, Jeremy, can you add your email address into the chat so we can let people know how to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I can do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to move on to another Bar Mills one kit build by John Racy. And yeah, I hope I pronounced that correctly, in S scale. John, are you with us?
Yes, yes, I am.
All righty. All yours.
Well, thank you. This is S scale, as you said, and it's an American four square house. These were popular in the late or the early 1900s, 1930. And it goes well with the transition era of what I'm modeling. I'm trying to do the Detroit-Toledo shoreline, which is coming along slowly. But you see a lot of these homes in the Detroit area. Detroit, Wyandotte, Ecorse would have these older four square homes. Was quite a challenge to build. You can see that my supports for the roof there, for the porch roof, aren't quite straight yet. I can tell you that they're a little straighter now, even though they don't show in the picture. I was working on them again this afternoon. I've pinned my roof supports in place to try and hold them to get them in place. No front door yet. I didn't build that. Actually, I started off using the Bar Mills kit, but I switched to using Mount Albert lumber. Just went a little bit better, a little cleaner look for a house. I think the Bar Mills lumber, I think it looked a little too rough, I guess. I tend to use it somewhere else in a warehouse or something. Well, if you go to the next slide, we'll see the other porch. Oh, there they are. So I've got a back porch, I've got the front porch. The roof was a bit of a challenge to try and get everything to fit together, and eventually I got it together. Looks pretty good. It hasn't been shingled yet. That's coming up. You can see on the back, the very back on the upper right, that is the kitchen area. Windows, as I say, the picture tells it all. I can see here that they aren't quite straight, but maybe I'll get them straighter later. And the brick, used a brick foundation, obviously, painted it with a brick red out of a Craftsman acrylic paints, and then put in the mortar with I think it's called Dave's mortar. And it turned out reasonably well. I still haven't weathered it yet. When I weather it, it'll all blend in a little bit better. There's no glass in the windows yet. There's no black between rooms, so you can see right through, but it's coming along. And that's it.
Oh, I think that thing's bigger than my first apartment.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, finding plans for this four square house. I just Googled American four square house, and up popped a lot of plans based on the Sears kit homes from the early 1900s.
Oh,
And
nice.
while they're not detailed plans, they certainly give you enough information to build something reasonably accurate.
Okay.
And I'm done.
All right. Any questions? All right. I guess now we'll move back to Phil again. Phil Edholm for his Bar Mills one kit. Phil, you there?
So did you put the picture in that I had on the very front of those slides? The one of the,
Yes, it's actually at the end, because what I did is
okay.
I
that's cool. That's cool. So basically I stopped working on this about 3 weeks ago. Just, I decided I had to focus on stuff for the convention. So building, this is the Boulder Creek. This was a hotel built in 1897. It became something called the Alpine Inn, which was reasonably well known in the Bay Area. The reason I picked this, it's in an area I like to model. And as I looked at the windows on the side in the kind of right picture, I thought the spacing looked very much compatible with the Bar Mills kit and thought that went well. So if you jump to the next picture, I kind of put this just to show where I'm at. This is going to be an August completion. So basically the walls are all done. I did find one thing, the back wall, you really can't see it in this picture, but both pieces of wood on that back wall, even though they were braced, warped. And in fact, the warp brace actually popped off because the wood's so badly warped. So I actually had two really bad pieces of wood there. I have to figure out what to do with those. The other walls actually held together pretty well. But you can see I've got the roof and the railings, and these are just kind of all set in place. I mean, jump to the next picture, which is kind of a side view. I actually have, there's a little portico to go out over, you can see that in the picture here, over the door on the side. That's done. And then the last picture is just kind of a picture of putting some of the pieces together. And I've kind of got all the other pieces ready to go. I just literally ran out of time to put it together and make it effective. So one of the things I am doing in the front is on the front part, I'm actually printing all of the 3D printing all of the window frames, etc. And you can see like the trim pieces there that go on the front and the front of the house. So it's going to be as all the pieces that kind of are architectural, I'm trying to 3D print instead of trying to build them with wood. So that's, and then the last picture is basically why the next picture, next slide, should be, oh, no, it isn't.
No, I know what you're talking about. Let me see here. There it is.
Yeah. So this was basically, this is what I'm building for a clinic at the convention. So this is, if you look at it, it's all the framing is all 3D printed. The wood is all real wood. The roof is actually all 3D printed. And hopefully I'm going to I've got the base all done. So hopefully by the time I get the clinic recording done here in about a week, it'll be in a good shape and it'll be really completed by the convention. So this became my focus of time and modeling was on this. So that was it. Thanks, Chris. By the way, I wanted to thank everybody who did the build-alongs. You guys, there were so many great techniques and tips. It was just wonderful to watch, you know, Bob and everybody in your build-along. So thanks.
Any questions for Phil?
Yeah, I've got one quick question, Phil. Those two first pictures you had, how many years was between those? Do you know?
The one at the left seemed to be taken about 1905, 1906, somewhere in there. The one on the bottom right was taken, I believe, in the 50s. It actually closed, I think it was in 56. It was in the middle, it was in 53 or 56. It was torn down and they built a supermarket there. So, and
It's
actually,
just amazing they kept the same railing that long. And
Yep.
I like those two pictures together. Thanks.
And what's actually, by the way, one thing that's really interesting in this building, if you look on the right in the left picture, you notice that the balcony is a balcony all the way down the side of the building. If you look on the right picture, you'll actually notice they, over the years, built that in all the way along the side to increase the square footage. So what was a balcony was built in 1900, by the 1950s became building. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But yeah, you can kind of see here like the detail in the front of the building with the detail on the roof. And so I looked at that and decided instead of trying to build that in wood, that looked like an ideal piece to 3D print to me. So enough said.
Any more questions for Phil? That right there is incredible.
Having said all that, if you look at it, the reality is there's two problems. I'm uncomfortable with the thickness of the post there. And actually, if you look at the very back on the bottom one, you see it's kind of angled. And it turns out they're actually about a 1/16 of an inch too short, and I've got to figure that out. So I either have to put a new piece in the center, or I'm going to have to, and I'm actually looking at it and I don't like the thickness. I may just reprint it and make it all thinner, which of course, each one of these is probably about 12 hours of print time. So, but it turns out it's really pretty easy because you just change the numbers and then reprint it. So,
Oh,
but yeah, the design, getting the shapes and stuff for like the roof there is a challenge. But, and the idea was to do some interiors in it as well. So those will go in as I put the pieces together. You'll have to wait and see it in the fall. The fall, it should be done. And eventually I want to put it on a module because it actually was right across from the depot in Boulder Creek, and the South Pacific Coast actually had their line right there. So I'm trying to think about a module with those three elements on it on a relatively small module.
cool. Sorry, answering a chat here. All right. Next up, we have Jamie Bothwell with his S scale version of the one kit. Jamie, you're with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, it's all yours.
Okay, so this model was inspired by a building I came across in Jersey City, New Jersey. There's actually another one next door to it. They're the only two wood frame buildings in like an entire block of brick buildings. So it kind of caught my eye because, people say, oh, you can't, wood buildings, you don't see wood buildings in, 2010 or whatever. So 2020. But they were there. So anyway, the size of the bar mills kit didn't quite work out with the windows matching up to the building. So I kind of just freelanced it a little bit. But it follows the general shape, and it's also sort of the color. I'm not happy with the roof. I cut the roof, and the roof on the actual building has some sort of fancy trim pieces under it. And I just didn't get a chance to make those. And so if I made those, I think the overhang wouldn't look quite so largish. But it also, you can't tell from the photo, but I've got the roof sitting forward a little bit, so it doesn't overhang quite as much in the back. So I'm probably going to have to rebuild the whole roof because the overhang doesn't work out the same size on all four sides. I tried to measure it, and I don't know what I did, but anyway, I made that little overhanging roof in the front. It's just a block of wood. I cut it on a table saw at an angle, and then I belt sanded the two sort of side edges to it. I basically scratch built that, the sort of shop window kind of things in the front. They were supposed to stick out, you're supposed to, that door in the middle, you're supposed to sort of walk past the windows to get to, but it wasn't lining up with what I had. And I just thought, oh, the heck with it. I'm just going to build what I've got. So anyway, but that's basically what I did. And it was fun. It was a neat kit. I was glad I tried it. So.
Cool.
That's about it.
Any questions for Jamie? All right. One thing I forgot to build a slide for, and I should have mentioned it earlier, was that there's a $25 gift certificate for bar mills that we're giving away
That's correct.
I'm sorry?
Excuse me. Did I say Jersey
Yes,
City, New Jersey? That building is in Jersey City, New Jersey. If anybody wants to know the crossroads to go look at it, I could give it to you.
So Chris, I was confirming $25 gift certificate from Bar Mills.
Okay. All right. So there's a kind of an unwritten rule that those that are sort of the staff don't really participate. I mean, we can show our stuff off, but not really participate in the contest itself. So as I see it, there's 4 of us that are eligible.
There should be 5. We had 5.
Right,
for the one
but
kit.
Phil's, I guess Phil's on staff really at this point. Is that?
Okay.
So Jim, pick a number between 1 and 4.
4.
All right, Jeremy Wyant is our winner. All right, so congratulations, Jeremy. We'll get you up to speed on getting your gift certificate from Bar Mills. Congratulations. All right, next we will move on to the uncategorized entries that didn't fit into any of the my bill or the build alongs. And we have Bob Farquhar. All yours, Bob.
This is an HO scale Walther's kit, plastic kit, and named after a friend of mine. That Corvette in the front actually rotates on a little tiny motor down in the base of the diorama. There's 2 floodlights to shine down on the sides. And the interior is lit as well. And when we get off the share screen, I can show you the actual motor that I used for the rotating Corvette.
All right, let me go to the stop share here.
Yeah, so this is the size. Yeah, I don't know if you see that or not. Clearing it up. Can you?
Yep.
So that's, I got 10 of them for $7 Canadian, including the shipping from China. They work on 5-volt motor. They're geared. A little, I probably can't see it because it's all dark right there, right in here. It's a little tiny hole in there, and that fits a brass rod that was able to stick up through there. The problem was at 5 volts, it rotates about 40 revolutions a minute. So I got it down to 1 volt. No, actually it's 0.94 of a volt. They make it slow enough to make it realistic. So anyway, that's it.
All right, thanks, Bob. That was that was really neat. The between the rotating car and the lighting, it came out really nice. All right, I want to thank everybody. We had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, looks like 12 people participated this time. So this is pretty big. We've had a good event. It's taken us a good probably hour to go through all this stuff. So I want to thank everybody that participated, and hopefully we can all gain something out of it, whether it's an idea or a technique or whatever. But I'm hoping that we can continue this upward trend and keep going. So anyway, I guess I'll turn it back over to Jim.